welcome to join the second session of the Brazil Support webinar series organized by the Global Action Partnership for EPR. My name is Ran Xie and I'm from UNAP Paris office. Today's session is our second session of this series, and its organization is supported by the GAP for EPR and also UNAP Brazil office. Welcome to join, everyone. If you missed our first session last week, here I just would like to quickly repeat some housekeeping rules for today. Please do kindly mute yourself during the expert presentation. We will have a Q&A session after the expert gives a technical presentation to allow you to raise your hand to ask your question. But in the meanwhile, we also encourage you to use the chat to introduce yourself and pose your questions there. And be aware that the session is being recorded and the recording will be shared on the GAP for EPR website later. I will also put in the chat our link to this webinar series so you could find the recording of the first session we already had last week. And yes, later in the Q&A part, you could feel free to use the raise hand function to ask questions directly in the meeting. Just several words about this GAP for EPR initiative. So in October 2023, GIZ, WWF, OECD, UNAP, and Prevent Waste Alliance, we jointly launched this initiative aiming at connect EPR practitioners and experts worldwide, foster collaboration, and innovate the... sorry, if colleagues, could you mute yourself? Thanks. And innovate the global conversation on EPR. So last week, we already had our first session, which discussed about the basics of EPR. Today, we will discuss with our experts and all the participants different modalities of PROs, its pros and cons. And tomorrow, we will have our last session of the series, which is going to look at the marketable certificates for packaging targets achievement. And just want to remind all of us that we are talking about general EPR, but with a focus of EPR for packaging in this webinar series. Now, with this, let me give the floor to our experts, Agnes and Stefan from Cyclos, for their presentation.
Thank you. Just sharing my slides. I hope you can see this now.
Yes.
Okay, so then we start. So welcome to our second workshop, which is a deep dive in different models of producer responsibility organizations. And as you can see, and tomorrow, as already introduced, we will have the third and last workshop in this session here. So it's Agnes and me today speaking, both managing director at Cyclos. So we are an independent auditing company based in Germany, working in the EPR systems worldwide, especially in the running ones. We have the part as the independent auditor on specific topics. So, it's a kind of a rush today. Without too many words, we will step into the agenda, having first of all general information about the role of producer responsibility organizations. We'll have a deep dive in different models and giving an overview here. And Agnes then goes into the pros and cons, having a one and single PRO EPR system or models with several PROs within a EPR system. We will discuss and give recommendations on that and also put a light onto agreements with municipalities and regions due to different shaping of the EPR system. So first of all, as a pre-read, the principles of target setting for producer responsibility organizations, because this forms the basis and the reference organization needs to work towards. So this is something like the golden rule to follow, right? So what should a producer responsibility organization achieve? And these targets should be laid out in the general framework, first of all, but they need to be binding and verifiable. The producer responsibility organization or the governmental level might give guiding documents how to, for instance, calculate targets, how to achieve specific measures when it comes to fee modulation as well, or something relates to that, and how data gathering and accurate data processing should be done. And very important, if these targets are not met, then should a penalization arise, because without penalization, well, it's a kind of voluntary system, right? And open to follow or not. So these targets needs for this then specific, relevant, accountable, which means maybe not only a quota, but also a total amount being measured or the number of collection points being installed or something like that, especially in the implementation phase. But this as the foundation for the PRO to work. The general principle of an EPR system is kind of easy. So the simplest possibility is a direct interaction of the producer with waste management operators that take over waste quantities from his products that occur, right? So that's already a kind of extended producer responsibility system, because he's taking over responsibility for the waste stage of his products. But this is kind of challenging due to the fact that he might give out the products nationwide and needs to run after his waste then in each and every specific region and so on. And that makes it then very challenging as long as he's not working in a very specific sector. To overcome this, we install the entity calling the Producer Responsibility Organization, which is an organization that combines and bundles the obligation of each and every importer in the sector, for instance, for packaging, and together organizes the operationalization and collection, sorting, and recycling of the waste that occurs from that. Since this entity, the Producer Responsibility Organization, is also the one that receives the financial contributions by the single producers and importers participating in this entity, it's also taking over then the financial flows occurring from the organization of the system. That means tendering or purchasing the waste management operators for the collection, sorting, and the recycling. It is also to get to know where's the entry point and the outlet of the system with the participating producers and importers. It should be clear what and how much of, in this case, packaging was put onto the market, and what is the amount for the producer responsibility to organize and deal with. Yes. And on the other side, it's what's coming out. So what is being then collected and reported in sorting and recycling based on the operations of the participating waste management operators, which are tendered by the Producer Responsibility Organization. And to combine these and to oversee this and to organize this is the main task of the Producer Responsibility Organization. And this is also why we call this then a system operator, but because this is literally what a Producer Responsibility Organization is doing. It's operating the EPR system on behalf of the producers and importers, what we also call the obliged company. And it's the link then between the ones introducing packaging onto the market and the one handling the waste occurring from this packaging. And you can see, though, it's a kind of similar illustration, but just to make clear that the system operator, the producer responsibility, is the nucleus, it's the heart of the EPR system, because it's interacting with each and every stakeholder of the value chain, starting with the packaging manufacturers by maybe giving design recommendations for better recyclability, for instance, and how to deal with this to them. They receive the cash flow from the participating packaging users, the producers and importers of filled products onto the nation area. They might even cooperate with retail and traders in terms of collection points, for instance, but most definitely are also doing the communication against the private users. So tell them how to deal with their waste, how to separate it, how to collect, how to dispose it off, where to bring it, in what rhythm, where can you get rid of your used packaging in that case. And then they are doing the tendering with the waste management. That means they search for eligible transport and waste logistic partners in collection. They buy capacities in sorting and recycling to bring the collected amount into that. And they receive data of what these operators have been done in order to put everything together, what was put onto the market and what was handled, to see and combine and compare, and to have, for instance, quotas resulting out of this. And with this, so most of the time, or the easiest thing to do it and to start it with is having a non-profit PRO. That means every financial contribution, what is called a EPR fee, by the obliged companies being paid against the producer, is only used for the purpose of organizing and administrating the system. So it's a net zero at the end of the day, right? Because everything he receives, he will spend for commissioning the collection, the sorting, the recycling, first of all, also to pay his own costs in administrating the system, and all relating costs based on the framework, for instance, having obligations in communication and information sharing, or supporting specific pilots or whatever. So whatever is mentioned as an obligation for a producer is taken over by the producer responsibility organization, and this is where the costs are paid for. So, and now reaching the point how to set up such a system operator. And there are very different setups. We know from the experience worldwide how they want to live extended producer responsibility. And this is very specific if you have a deep dive into the specific countries. Then it is a decision whether the producer responsibility organization is a state-led one or a industry-led one by the private industry, who's also the obliged industry. Then it's the question of if it's a non-profit entity, as shown before, or is it a for-profit entity? Then we have the possibility to just have one single PRO dealing with all packaging and related packaging waste, or to have multiple PROs in different shaping. And it's also if a PRO only covers specific packaging, for instance, just paper packaging, or if it's covering all types of packaging and packaging material. And this is more or less the first decision to take when implementing the EPR system. How to that
ela tem se espalhado pelo Brasil, mas é aquela.
Sorry, can you mute yourself?
Let me mute.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Ron. So this is one of the major decisions to take, and also to see, okay, what results occur from the decision on the setup of the system operator. So, and to give you some guidance in that, we have here different comparisons. For instance, first of all, the first question and one of the most crucial question is it a industry-led or a state-led entity? And as a spoiler, most of the time it's an industry-led organization due to the fact that the obligations are against the private industry and they take it over as their task and their obligation. It makes sense that they have also the power to develop this. This has one specific advantage that the fees are not connected to any public funds, so they can administer and collect it for the one and only purpose, what is running the EPR system, while we might have the risk in a state-led PRO that these financial contributions trickle to other aspects as well. It is also then the fact that all organizing efforts are also with the private industry then, and not mainly on the governmental or state-led part. The state-led and governmental part is still an important one in overseeing and evaluating the private industry performance, but it's not like that they are taking over the main task in organizing or receiving funds or anything like that. The free rider issue is also easier to handle in an industry-led PRO due to the fact that it is on their own interest to avoid free riders, while in the state-led PRO, we also can see that they're prone to corruption in that case. And the control can be independently managed with an industry-led producer responsibility organization, while always the question is in the state-led PRO, who's going to control a state-led entity? It's not that easy, right? So, and for this, well, you already heard where my suggestions might go to, but both exist, while we do not see from the experience very, how should I say, successful state-led producer responsibility organization, the EPR system in other countries. The next question is, having a profit, non-profit or a for-profit set up for the PRO. For the non-profit, it is easy, it is easy, but you are also limited to what you receive, you spend on your tasks, right? If you have a profit PRO setting, it's possible to make benefits out of it, but you have also the risk in having losses and possibility of insolvencies of a producer responsibility organization. And that means you need to be prepared for that in case that most of the time it's a multiple PRO system in that case as well. So then you need to be prepared how to take over then the obligations of the insolvent producer responsibility organization, what is really a challenging question. As long as you are a non-profit, you have no specific economic interest. And for this, you can reach a higher level in transparency related to that. You can just make public your fee setting, you can make public your spendings and everything what occurs, as long as they can see the financial balancing out in the end of the year, so it's fine. In for-profit entities, it's not that case. So it's not disclosed what you might have as an EPR fee set or whatever. It might be even specific from customer to customer. That makes it then this transparency issue easier to identify also the free riders in a non-profit setting and make it more difficult for the for-profit setting. And especially for the controlling, since a higher level of transparency is reached, the efforts are comparably lower for the non-profit PRO and higher in the for-profit setting, meaning you need really dive deep into the confidential data of a for-profit company to have the full overview if everything is right here. We have some examples from like the other countries do. So we have producer responsibility as non-profit organizations, for instance, in Belgium, which is always a kind of a comparably easy and front-running EPR system because it's good to oversee what they are doing, and they are also giving a lot of transparent information via the internet because they are a non-profit entity, right? And they are also obliged to have this transparency for the public. But also it's in Ireland, in Italy, France, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, and Spain. So all of these are doing more or less the same manner. And the system behind is that the obliged industry put together joint forces to create that entity on behalf of them. So they started with the confirmation of the governmental level to create this producer responsibility organization where then each and every single producer and importer needs to participate in. And as you can see, this brings you then, because it's also a one producer responsibility organization system, to a supply monopoly for the producers and importers, what makes it easy for them, because there's only one choice you need to contribute in, and that's it. There's no decision taking or whatever. If you want to bring packed goods onto the market, you need to go to this PRO. Easy. Yeah. But on the other side, and that's a bit more critical, you also have the supply monopoly in the waste management services, makes it a very strong entity, right? But basically, they solve this issue by having open tender processes for each and every waste management service operator to participate as far as he wants to. Well, and on the other side, we have then also the for-profit setting, which goes along with having multiple producer responsibility organizations, which means we'll have then a system in competition, also for producers and importers to participate. So they might choose from specific producer responsibility organization offering more or less the same service. And we have also competition. I mean, each organization is going with his or her waste management operator. That makes it much more complex to oversee the system, because you can imagine a producer and importer is not bound to just participate in one producer responsibility organization, might go give some of his quantities to PRO 1 and the next one to PRO 2 and the next one to PRO 3 and so on. And who knows then his total amount and who has the oversight there. And that makes it then necessary to even have one more entity to really overlook the system. But it is then a competition service system, which also means the actors, the stakeholders acting in competition might go for the lowest price, might end up in a comparably cheaper EPR system at all due to the market-driven, I should say, impacts, you know, in purchasing the services. And the last question here is what is the setting between having a PRO for all packaging in that case, or just specific packaging? For the financial aspects, if you cover all packaging, the producer responsibility organization is less dependent on external developments. So that means, you know, we have a volatile market in resources or secondary materials. So one's going higher and one's going more down. So, and as long you have everything in your scope, you might be able to better balance it out. While if you are limited to a specific material type and packaging, for instance, paper or for instance, plastics, you are highly dependent on what the market says on this material stream, and this will directly impact then also the fee setting because it needs somehow to be the cost covered. For the producers participating, it is easier as long one company is offering service for all types of packaging. That's clear. As long as you have then multiple packaging material specific producer responsibility organizations, so meaning maybe one for glass, one for paper, one for plastic, something like that. You might have to participate with several producer responsibility organizations due to the fact that you have a broader portfolio and packaging items brought onto the market. So that's not that easy. And you need to be aware that you need to balance out the fees to avoid any undesired shifts in packaging material usage, because an EPR system is with connected finance, gives incentives maybe to go from one material type to another due to the fact that it's much cheaper, for instance. And you need to be aware, so there's a certain interaction between these material-specific producer responsibility organizations anyway, right, to anticipate these effects. For the free rider issue, it's not that different. And the control is, most probably a bit more streamlined for the one for all PRO due to the fact that you can combine everything, and for the others, you have different and several entities to control and measure. So that was.
Let me add, yes, that was bad. And let me add one thing. In Spain, they have a different two PROs, one for lightweight packaging and one other for glass. This is possible because for glass, it is a totally different infrastructure. And if the infrastructure is absolute a different one, then it's possible, like one PRO for packaging or for lightweight packaging and one for electronic equipment. You would not do it in one. Therefore, if there is a separate infrastructure, and with packaging, it's only glass and sometimes also paper, then it's possible, because I think the Spanish example you will know, and therefore I want to mention that there are two different PROs which are working beside each other because they cover different streams of infrastructure and packaging. Okay, then let me go on to the next one. I want to dive deeper in the model with only one PRO. And as Stefan already mentioned, there are main tasks to be carried out by the PRO. I don't want to show everything again, but it is really very, very important that these topics are part of the law. If you have a packaging law, it must be very clear what are the duties of the PRO. And this is with registration, collection, tendering, controlling, documentation, informing, financing, and reporting. And to make it very clear the duties and what happens if they will not fulfill these duties, and the penalties to the PRO, because this is as he's told, the heart, it is the basic. If we go a little bit deeper in the single PRO, in all PROs, the main structure, the umbrella structure, there is the head of the PRO with organizational management, very often with a steering committee and something like this. Then there must be a management of the obliged companies and the management of all waste management tasks, and then this must be in financial balance. And these are the tasks of the financial management with registration, data reporting, fees, invoices, checking the companies, whether they really, there are free riders. And of the management of waste management, it's tendering, the collection, sorting, recycling, cooperation between PRO and other actors, billing and controlling, and data reporting to the ministry or other obliged governmental organizations. And of course, another one is the communication with all stakeholders. And important is that it is an own organizational structure, that it is independent, that the decisions are made independently, and the PRO has its own bank account. It is not in all like this, and all collected fees must be used for PRO tasks. And these, I want to go very fast about it. What are what has he to fulfill, or the managing directors or the management, what have they to do, what are the duties, the operational management, working with steering committees, preparation on meetings, plannings, integration of the companies, cooperation with municipalities, informing. This is in the umbrella over the whole PRO. And then the communication is important with steering committee, with obliged companies, with consumers, and with collectors and sorters. It must be very transparent, otherwise it will not work. They will not accept it. And then the financial management, the group of this financial management needs to know everything about the finance flow, the register, the program of invoices, cooperate with all actors, and establish a billing program and setting up a controlling system to see who is a free rider and to find out that there are no free riding or only less. And the management of waste task, a waste management task is clear. It's coordinated with all financial administration, drawing up a concept to establish an infrastructure, proposing and the first projects for the collection. You will not cover the whole country in the first year to say, okay, how do you start step by step? Monitoring of individual waste management projects, invitation tenders, and cooperate with the chambers and, of course, with the municipalities. Yes, what is needed urgent, the head, the finance management, the waste management, the communication management, and the IT management. And this is only an example with steering committee, then with PRO management, and with the districts in the PRO for law, for IT, for finance, for contract, for controlling, communication. In a lot of countries, it's a little bit like this. And we want to show you how many employees are needed to implement this. FUS Plus is in Belgium. Belgium has about 12 million inhabitants, and they have 60 employees. It is from now, today. It's managing director, account management, customer service, operational communication, quality control, finance, IT, data management, innovation, business development, and also a littering team. A team who is only responsible for saying, okay, where are clean up necessaries and so on. And I want to jump to CTO, because CTO is about 70, in France, there is about 70 million inhabitants, and they have more than 470 employees. And with a board of directors with 18 members and 4 fields of activities: eco-design solutions, waste management, public education, and international cooperation also. And the other one you can see here in Chile, for example, it's new, it's in your neighborhood. There are already, as we know, 120 employees. And who is the in the organizational structure, who is the owner of this, or in what hand are these
E ela
are
estava
these
meio
are these
delicada
PROs?
dela. O pai dela foi. Ela estava internada até a semana passada.
Is there a question? No.
No.
No. And it is PRO in the hand. The most in the most countries, the members are the producers, the manufacturers, the distributors, NGOs, or other international service providers. And the basic is the collection of packaging, recovery of packaging information, and volume flow verification. And I want to give you two examples. Belgium, 11.9 or 12 million inhabitants. FOS Plus is a non-profit association, has 51 shareholders, 29 are fillers, brand owners, packers, 8 are retailers, and 14 are packaging material producers. And the organization published list of its members. It's more than 100,000 members who have to pay, and has about 60 employees. And FOS Plus make contracts with municipalities. They are responsible for the collection, and contracts with waste management, and they pay the municipalities for each ton of separate collected waste. If you are interested later on, we can dive deeper in next sessions. But
yes, just one short addition to the FOS Plus system. They are evaluating the EPR fees regularly, and you can just simply go on the web page there and show how the actual fees are, or the current fees are. They do this year by year due to the fact that you need to adjust due to the market price of secondary material, due to the increasing labor costs, for instance, or any decreasing or higher revenues for marketing products, for instance. So they balance that out and give it a new fee, and they steer with this the complete packaging world in Belgium, I would say, because they are very specific in that. And with their EPR fee setting, they also incorporate a specific eco-modulation. So they have different fees for instance, transparent PET bottles or opaque PET bottles, which are definitely more expensive per item, for instance, and so far and so on. So, but it's very transparent, and you just need to go to the web page, and you can find each and every information.
And next example is in France, Citeaux. Oh, this is wrong. It's about 70 million. It's from the old one. It is not. Sorry, I took this from Belgium. It is about 70 million inhabitants. I will change it. But nevertheless, in Citeaux, the members of Citeaux, 9% are the industry, like Danone, they are Coca-Cola, multinational industry. 44% is commerce, distributors, retailers, and 3% the paper industry, then services, 1% board of packaging sector a little bit, and NGOs, very, very small. Yes, but you can find it here in the links. And I want to give a fast overview, because the time is running again today, about what happens if there are several PROs. The first question is, as you can see here, they can choose. Will I pay to PRO 1 or 2 or 10, or and what will the flow of money be like? Who pays to whom? We have here, I will jump over this because they are, there are a lot of questions, and one of the main questions are also how are the local authorities involved? If there are a lot of more than one PRO, and how can you control this? And how are the collectors sorters involved? And how can you make from this model a nationwide system where everywhere, also in the farthest, in the regions which are far away and very expensive to collect, that here is also this collected, because if there are several PROs, everybody wants to optimize the economic situation, and nobody wants to go to the hills and outside to the rural regions, yeah, only in the cities. This is a lot of problems, and I here read what is about modulate fees. It is impossible to modulate the fees if there are a lot of PROs in competition. And but you can say, but in German they are. Yes, they are. But last time I told you that there were a lot of problems with free riders, and this is a little bit solved now. We have a central agency here. You can see that which is only controlling the register, and there are working more than 60 people and which are employees in the central register for inspection of the system. And this must be, otherwise you will lose in several PROs. And we don't see so many advantages to have more than one PRO. And in Germany, we must say the first 10 years till the infrastructure was built up, it was only one PRO, the green dot. Therefore, after 10 years, it was already fixed, the infrastructure with the most of sorting plants, with the most of recycling plants, and with all households having a bin and access to the system. And then they started with competition. And yes, we can give you like zwei Seiten sind quasi.
I just, yeah, just to recap a bit and to save some time for question and answer. So as you heard, the one non-for-profit PRO system is the one we would say it's worth to follow it because it's very direct forward. It is easy and transparent to set it up, and any multiple system brings in a lot of more complexity, which is specifically in the beginning hard to oversee and to evaluate and monitor. Why even think about multiple system? Well, in Germany, it was the fact that the antitrust authority made it an issue, and this is why we had to break up our system and make it a multiple ones, due to the fact also that the monopoly one or the single one was also a for-profit. But as long as the producer responsibility organization is a non-profit setup system, it should be basically no issue with the antitrust authority.
Das hatten wir quasi schon.
Yes, yeah, it's maybe easier to speak in English while we have an international workshop here. This is already addressed, the advantages and disadvantages of one non-profit PRO against several PROs. Just mentioning several PROs, we talked about different PROs per material type. You can also have different PROs by region, for instance, but the same issues apply. So who goes into the more rural areas compared to the dense ones, which comparably higher operational costs. That's not easy. And if you have such a setting, you need to have clear rules from the governmental level how to distribute regions across the several PROs, because otherwise it's just a cherry picking and going for the easiest way to collect and recycle. This maybe brings it then together, the summary, where different setting of EPR systems you can find, and in the upper left, straightforward, and the most robust one is the industry-led PRO as a single PRO, as a non-profit, while some other possibilities some other options are possible, and some are kind of failure from the beginning. For instance, having a mandatory EPR for every product without any further rules, or only relying on voluntary initiatives, you will never reach a critical point where you will have an effective packaging waste management at the end of the day. So this brings it again together, and we also bring out the presentation where you can have the read. Just as the last thing, here you can see what needs to be regulated in a framework, and the points A to K cover more or less each and every aspect that needs to be addressed in a EPR regulation, which is clear definition, who's the system operator, what are the obliged producers, which is the scope of packaging being covered, the collection system about sorting, recycling, how to interact with the municipalities, and so on. So all clarification about the obliged obligations and past, while these are the important fields of control, which we'll touch upon in the next session as well. And
yes, I want to add still some ideas about the decision of and how to bind in the municipalities and the regions, because you asked last times for this, and I want to show you the three main models. First model is that the PRO, or if there are more PROs, gives the cash flow directly and interacts directly with the waste management companies and the municipalities. If they are involved, they are only involved like a management company, like a private company. This is the model in Germany. Or if the opposite of this is that the cash flow is going in total to the municipalities for all services, and they are responsible for all waste management services, for collection, sorting, and recycling. This is, or was in Netherlands, one of the basic ideas. Then, and the main, and very often you see this model with municipalities are responsible for collection and information, and waste management companies are responsible for sorting and recycling. This is a model which is used very often, and it is also in most countries successful. It is difficult to do this if there is more than one PRO. And yes, agreements with municipalities. I don't want to explain everything. You can read it, the different ways and agreements with the municipalities, because time is running and we need still a little bit time for questions. I don't want. Do you want to add something? No. Okay. Then let me go.
Thank you very much, Agnes and Stefan. We already have, I think, 3 questions in the chat. Colleagues, feel free to continue using the chat for your questions, or later after we finish these 3, you feel free to raise your hand and speak directly with our expert. So our first question is, I think, related with one slide shown in your presentation. The colleague is asking non-profit and for-profit information is only about the EPR for packaging system, or they consider other EPR systems like for other waste streams.
That's a general decision that's applicable also for other waste streams as well, or other product streams. It's not limited to packaging. This is a basic setting question, and it also applies to electronics or waste electronics then, or to batteries and so on. So it's basically the general recommendation also to have it as a non-profit.
Yeah, thanks. The second question, I think it is also speaking in the context of Brazil. The colleague thinks one PRO that covers 100% territory might be difficult. Have this one PRO cases been implemented in phases or similars? I think this is to ask the experience from other countries.
Sure. Implementation of the PRO might be a step-by-step approach. So, for instance, in Chile, they did, first of all, they focused on the dense areas, so the surrounding of Santiago and so on, but then start spreading from there their services to the north and the south as well, as far as they are the only producer responsibility organization, or there's one major producer responsibility organization. It's easier for them to assess what are my additional costs if I reach a specific area now with my services, and calculate that in my fee setting accordingly. So it's doable to do that step by step. You can even have, I should say, different departments of your producer responsibility organization spreading out over the country, having first just one, then one of the north, organizing it around the north, for instance, and installing one in the south, but having all the information being combined and gathered together then, and not only the information, also the financing.
Tomorrow we will have these approaches and discuss different approaches, how to extend the system step by step, not starting with 100%, but started maybe who has access or where, how can you extend the infrastructure or different quotas. And we will want to show you tomorrow. Yeah.
Thank you, Agnes. And dear colleague, please join tomorrow as well for this reason. Yeah, to listen more from our experts. Thanks. The next question is from Flavio. Again, I would like to check if Flavio, you want to, handle that from yourself.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very important question.
Thank you. Thank you, Agnes.
Yes. In Germany, there are penalties if PRO did not fulfill the target. They have to pay a lot. Before there was, when there was only one, the responsibility was in the hand of the companies, of the obliged companies. They say if you are not able to fulfill the targets, every people and inhabitant has a right to bring everything back to the retailer. This is the alternative to a direct giving back system. There's a collection system at the households you have to install. If you are not successful to install it, the people are able and they are allowed to bring all the waste back to the retailers, and therefore they were very, very, very interested to build up the system that there is not a waste management system in the houses of the retailers. This was in the first 10 years, the penalty, or we call it Damocles, I don't know, it was the penalty for the obliged companies, and then it changed to financial penalties. Yes. And of course, who is responsible to fulfill the targets? Of course, the head of the PRO. yes, like
Yeah.
others also.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it is important that the legal framework clearly states
Yeah.
out if the producer responsibility organization fails, the responsible or the responsibility itself is always directed against the producer, the single producer and single importer. So, and he stays responsible even if the PRO fails. And if he fails, then you know about okay, who is bringing how much onto the market at a certain time, you know, and then you have the certain share of your responsibility and the costs related to that, and then you will, well, you need to bear the cost then or to cover the cost still without an entity. So it should be your high interest to keep the PRO alive and running according to your obligations, right? Because otherwise it will be a much more costly thing. And that's more or less the same principle as Agnes explained with the more physical punishment we had here before.
Thanks, Stefan and Agnes. Just a quick comment on this. I believe this is quite important for us because, well, people think that the EPR, the PRO responsibles are just collect and send to recycling or disposal. And we have tried to explain that's much broader than this. There's a whole set of responsibilities for a PRO, and that's why we believe, I personally believe, that we need industry-led PROs because industry is it's putting in the name of the PRO a lot of responsibilities, a legal responsibility. It's just not an obligation to collect and install a collection point or equivalent. And one another just comment maybe for tomorrow's session, Agnes, is that I believe in Brazil something that must be clear to all is that the PRO operation is one thing. The waste management operation is another completely different thing. We expect the waste management companies to have a lot of profit. They should be profitable. This is an operation, a service they provide for the PRO. But the PRO has a responsibility to administrate the system. What you said at the beginning of the session, I believe is the most important message of today. They must organize the whole system. They must manage a system. And maybe here we have a part of the question, the answer for the question from Amizi Velenas about the implementation in phase or similar. In my opinion, in Brazil, we have already a phasing strategy. Once we selected geographical targets in any kind of document or strategy, even decree of agreements. But we need to understand that the PRO has the right and the responsibility to organize all of this. And implementation must be done with local companies, local waste companies. This is not the problem. The problem is to have, as you said, a general connection of the data to the society and the government to have the whole picture of about what is happening. But thank you very much. I will let the others to question here. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Flavio, as well. May I just check, Agnes, Stefan, do you have maybe 5 more minutes so that we can extend a little bit to cover the remaining three? Okay, great, thanks. So the order, I think, is first Jacqueline, then I will give the floor to Mariana, and then we also have a last question from Luisa. So Jacqueline's question is about whether the total cost of collection and sorting could be covered by PRO fees. Or like the fees paid by the citizens should also contribute to part of the cost.
No, in Europe and in in Europe, it is law that 100% of all costs have to be covered by the obliged companies. It is collection, sorting, recycling, and the service of the PRO themselves with the 400 employees, for example. So they have to pay for these employees and for the organization, the amount. And for the register, it is very expensive to have and to build up the register. And also for cleanup and for this. And what is also paid, and this money is going directly also in Germany to the municipalities for information, communication with the inhabitants, and for clean up the streets.
Yeah, but as a service, they pay the municipalities for. That's the idea, you know. They use the municipalities to spread their communication, their prepared communication flyers or whatever, you know. That's the idea. They might also use the municipality as a service provider in waste collection, but then they need to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's in the EPR system where the producers are fully responsible. We know we also have EPR system where we have a kind of shared responsibility, where the municipalities have also obligations in collection, for instance. Then it is a more complex and difficult question to answer because it's depending on the regulatory framework, whether they need to do something according to the law or not. But most basically, we are talking from a kind of a dual system.
Yeah.
Municipalities doing around the residual waste, bio waste, and so on, and the EPR system is doing around the scope of what is covered in the EPR system. In that case, we were talking about packaging waste, right? So that's the difference.
Yes, and dual means the aspect of financing, not the aspect so much of services. The aspect of financing is EPR system is financed by EPR fees by the obliged companies. And the other waste streams like bio waste and so on is financed by municipal fees or municipal taxes. Yeah, by the inhabitants.
Thank you very much. Mariana, now you have the floor for your question. Thanks.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for your presentation. It was really good. My name is Mariana. I'm from the Ministry of Environment in Brazil. I'm on the coordination of the reverse logistics here. And I don't know if I got it right, but in the case of Germany, you mentioned a central register and it oversees all the pros. So, how does it work? Who pays for it? It's state-led. I really didn't get it, and why I'm so curious. Well, because I'm curious, and second, because we have in our model we have EPRs for different chains of products. So by our regulation for packaging, for example, we have 13 pros. And they're no therefore they can be for profit or non-profit. It's up to them. And for electronics, that another chain, for example, we have 2 pros, and it cannot be for profit. So now we are trying to modulate to harmonize those regulations, and I would like to know how you manage if you have if Germany has a system to manage all the pros, or how this central register works. I don't know if I got it wrong. Thank you.
No, it's
Yeah, we have 10 PROs only for packaging, and it is important to have for each different waste stream a different PRO. Of course, not the same PRO for packaging than the same PRO for electric equipment, and another PRO it's fine for batteries or for tiles. In Germany, the register, the central register, is half governmental. It is private but controlled and organized a little bit in the hand between the government and the private industry. We call it Stiftung. I don't know. It is a little bit different. It is a non-profit organization paid by the PROs. Yeah, they have to show every year what is their turnover, what is their need, and it is paid by the PROs. These 60 persons who are working there are paid by PROs, by all the 10 PROs. The money share depends on what is registered. If they have registered 50% of the total amount, they have to pay 50% of the needs of the central agency. Therefore, they have to pay, and the central agency is the head of the register. They have, every obliged company have to register in this central agency, central register, and to make a contract with a PRO and to give these informations to the register. There are also already more than 80 companies registered from Brazil in the German register, because all importers who is sending to Germany packet goods, they have to register in this central register, and you can find in this register, this last session I have shown it, and if you have a look into the presentation from last week, you will find all the connection data of this register and of the organizational structure, and which companies from Brazil are already registered in Germany. I think this is the best way to get more information about it.
Just as a short oversight of what the data flow is. So the producers need to register with a central register. They need to show which PRO they are participating with. The central register received the mass flow verification reports of the producer responsibility organization. So that means the waste that has been handled and brought into sorting, recycling, and so on. As the second number, they also received the number of amounts being introduced into the market. So then they have the complete overview about what was put into the market, what was handled out of the market, and it's paid by the producer responsibility organizations. So that's in short what they do. They are also empowered to punish producers that are not complying, because we have also specific instruments like a third-party validation on data of completeness, amounts of producers you put onto the market. That's a specific report is also addressed against the central agency. And we have the third independent party validation of the mass flow verification reports. The producer responsibility organizations give also to the central agency. So there's not only the approval of data, but approval of approved data, somehow. So it's, yeah.
And if they see that somebody is free rider, they give the data to the government or another authority who gives the penalties to the companies.
And they do.
They really, really pay. Here, it is a discussion.
And just if allowed me, just only quick thing to add on this. All this information, Mariana, is publicly available. So anyone can see at the moment what is coming in, what is coming out, who is accomplishing. So Agnes in the last session showed us the Brazilian participants of the register. So any citizen can check. So this is important because this compliance does not depend on the approval of a report from the government to be published. And this make easy the free rider detection. So this is a very, very interesting for us to learn from the European and in the specific case in the German example.
When you say everything is published, you mean all the for example, all the data about how much they put
No,
in the
no,
market?
no, no,
The whole picture. It's just like the black box in the Brazilian case.
Yes.
There is the PRO. The PRO informed how much the set of that associated industry put in the market, isn't it, Agnes? So the whole amount, not the industry by industry.
It is, yes, it is a summary of all, and it is published. The name of the registered company, the contact data, the brand name, and what kind of packaging they bring on the market, whether it is shipment packaging, service packaging, household packaging, or industrial packaging. These are the informations. What is not published and what you cannot see is the amount and the material what they bring on the market. You can see all informations about the company, and about a rough information about the packaging, but not the information of the very concrete packaging amount and material.
Yeah,
This
they
is-
have,
yes.
but behind the curtain, right? So
Yeah,
they
Yes.
use this for
private. Yeah.
internal,
Yeah.
So they distinguish in publishing
Yeah.
due to data
Yeah.
thingies, you know.
Yes.
Thank you. We have, I think, our last question, which is about products with multiple cycles for use. For example, in Brazil, products, especially electronics, often undergo multiple repair cycles, which can complicate tracking and classification for EPR systems. So how could this challenge be addressed, and how that will impact the PRO reaching their collection and recycling targets? I think in terms of EPR for packaging, reusable packaging can also have multiple cycles for use. So maybe, yeah, our expert could share some insights on this.
Yeah, that's especially for electronics a challenging question.
And textiles.
The textiles, it's also
Yeah.
for the multi-use packaging as well. What is important there is to have a clear definition at what stage waste occurs. So as long as you are using it and maybe direct reusing it, or maybe just having small repairs or whatever, depends a bit on what are you doing with it. And it's not going to be waste. It will be not accounted as waste, and it's not then applicable, I should say, to any target or whatever, you know, it's just in the loop. It's still as it is in use for multiple packaging or for a appliance that's being repaired. It's in the use, in the use, in the use. But at a certain stage, it will be then waste, maybe not possible to repair, or a multi-use packaging will be shredded somewhere as well because it's out of, you cannot use it anymore, and bring it then into recycling. That's the point then where you need to come up with your cost and coverage. For electronics, a bit more complex, honestly, because you can support repair and you can measure it as well, and promote it also by having financial contributions. Depends a bit on how the legal setting is, but it's not that easy. But it's very important to have this specific point of waste entry, you know, where waste occurs. That
We have a discussion, especially with textiles. If you bring second-hand textiles or second-hand electronic equipment, like new equipment on the market, are you then obliged to be part of the system and pay for the system or not? Yeah, for example, if they send from Netherlands textiles or second-hand electro equipment to Germany, do they have to pay here? And at the moment, they need not to pay if it is second-hand equipment. But this is in discussion. Yeah.
Agnes, just to have an example to Luisa, here in Brazil, Luisa, we have already for glass packaging, as the specific decree, a rule that make a discount for the collection and recycling target if you do reuse. So there is a specific indicator to measure reusables, and then you discount this amount from the target. And we are trying to think about how this be done in the case of repair of electronics, mainly because we would love to introduce some right to repair regulation in Brazil soon. So if you do this, it's important to consider repair inside the electronic target.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think,
We
this
have an
triggers further.
we have an expert.
discussion.
Just one point, Ran. Luisa, if you want to go further, I recommend Bruno, who is here with the hand rising. He's an expert on this. He's conducting, as far as I know, his master degree on this. So we can put you in contact later if you want.
Yeah, maybe Luisa, Bruno, if you can maybe quickly add something from your end, we're close. Yeah, we actually
Yes.
already passed the time, but yeah, feel free. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much for the very nice presentation and the discussion. It's just maybe just a follow-up, but I know you might not have time. How do you think that the battery passport will address this issue of this tracking and how this could be transferred maybe to Brazil? I know it's a much more advanced and it's still aiming to implement, but since the idea here is to share experience, I do think that it's something that we should already start to think how we could adapt it to I'm Brazilian to Brazil context. So I just wanted to see your perception of this, but I know it's maybe 2 words on if we have time. But thank you very much for your answer.
You need our perception or Flavio's? So, basically that will impact a lot due to the fact that will open your or give you full information of what can be done and how to get things better out or whatever. But it takes a lot of time. I would not expect to have this within the next 5 years, so maybe 5 to 10 years, more or less. I was doing my doctoral thesis about that aspect, and that's already 15 years ago. So, or even more. So, and it's
20.
Yeah, it's still not in place. So, yeah, I'm also waiting for that.
Well, I agree with Stefan, and I'd like to add, Luisa, that the digital passport maybe it's not able to be included in an EPR legislation in Brazil at the moment, but the Circular Economy National Plan, which me and Julia Tourinho, we are working on, and a lot of people here are also involved, they consider the idea, and I believe the industry ministry will take some steps to implement for specific products, some tests, some pilots on digital passport. So we can discuss about this later if you want. And just Bruno, please, Bruno. Yeah,
I promise
we mentioned
I'll be,
it. So please.
I promise I'll be quick. It's about how we can address not just repair but remanufacture products also. Over our letters, we are trying to work a way to define what is a repair or a remanufactured product. So this can be attached or add to the fiscal note here in Brazil, so you can have some form accountability over what I put in the market as a remanufactured product, so I can postpone my collecting targets. This is still a work in progress because, first of all, under Brazil legislation, we have to define remanufacturers, repair products, and how do we trace them over the moment that are sellout. Okay. It's just a fallout, and it's under construction, but it's have a pretty good horizon under this.
And Bruno, if I can complement, this is really important not only for electronics, mainly because we have a very robust electronic systems for invoices, and we are also trying to put into action an amendment of our constitution about tax review for recycling material. So you need some way to track which is really recyclable or remanufactured or repaired good to implement a tax review, a tax policy on this kind of product. So thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
all very much.
Just can second that.
Yeah.
You're completely right. Yeah.
I have a question for tomorrow. Can only for Flavio and Nancy, can we not start? Can we try 50 minutes before? Because today I couldn't deal in. I don't know why, and then I have to organize a new laptop. Yes,
Yeah.
a quarter.
No, we stick to the time, but she wants to dial in 15 minutes before.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to
Yeah,
try.
no problem.
If it's not possible, I don't know why it didn't work.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
Stefan, tomorrow will be a little bit later, therefore it's important that I can deal in. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Agnes. And thanks for all the participants staying with us until now, and thanks for the very great discussion we just had. Please, colleagues, join us the same time tomorrow for the last session, which is going to be focusing on marketable certificates to help achieve EPR targets. So with this, let me now close today's webinar, and we see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.